gotta get it on mindset.
Built 20-odd years ago with the intention of bringing American open-wheel racing to Japan, twin-ring Motegi has carved its own legacy in Japanese motorsport. Now, while the oval sits unused, the road course is still full of action, and today the iRacing IndyCar Open Series heads to twin-ring Motegi and its Grand Prix circuit to kick off the second half of its season. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpotTV, where my name is Arjuna Kenkipati, delighted to be joined as always by Andrew Kinsella. And a reminder, you can follow live timing and scoring powered by our partners at ATVO by heading to RaceSpot.tv/timing. Andrew, this is a circuit which initially was built to use the oval, but the very last time that the IndyCars came to race here in Motegi, we saw the Grand Prix venue used. It was a race that Scott Dixon went on to win, and we're ready now to go racing for 31 laps at Twin Ring Motegi.
Yeah, thanks Arjuna. This is a very unique sort of layout. It's a roval that goes both inside and outside the oval, so it presents some unique challenges. There's a lot more room on this oval, or sorry, this road course than you think that there is, simply because of the layout. And it creates some very unique corners, some very unique camber situations that we were talking about a little bit before we went on air, and presents a very different challenge for many of these drivers compared to some of the road courses that we went to, particularly the likes of Road America and Spa, where it's much more of a natural terrain road course. This is a little bit different challenge here, so it'll be very interesting to see how these drivers treat it here today.
And you said it's a roval, but it's not really a traditional roval. We have the oval and the road course. They're separate. They're not combined, not like what we saw this past weekend in the iRacing Daytona 24 Hours. So here's a look then at your schedule. Still plenty of racing to go as we reach the halfway marker. Here's how the championship situation looks. It is still 5 power slide drivers leading the way here, but Rashad Craig not far off. Andrew Marquez also in with a potential top 5 chance here. But ultimately, these standings do not bring in the drop weeks that we factor in, Andrew. 12 races in the championship, only the best 8 count towards the overall championship. And so as things stand, yes, Adam Blocker has almost an 80-point advantage, but things will look very, very different once we get to the closing stages, once we factor in those drop weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking particularly at drivers like Brian Carey, who hasn't necessarily made the top split in all of our oval races so far. He's been steadily improving his I rating on the oval side of things, but it hasn't quite got him into all of the top split races. He's here in the top split here today, though, and so some of those drop weeks will definitely come into play for a driver like Brian Carey. Look for him to move up the championship standings as these weeks go on. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see a week with maybe a little bit less participation this week than some of the other weeks. Probably some hangover, we'll call it, from the Daytona 24-hour race that we had over the weekend, where we saw some barn burners of races, not just in the top split, but all over the different splits that were going on.
Yeah, upwards of 15,000 drivers in this 2022 iRacing Daytona 24. Definitely the biggest in terms of participation of all the sim races across the different platforms, but here today, very different. Only 28 cars signed up for this first race of the new week. Kind of goes to the traditional participation trends that we see here in the land of the rising sun. Qualifying underway. We're looking aerially at this twin ring Motegi facility. There you see the oval. You can see a car coming through the final sector of the road course, running parallel the start-finish line for the road course, for the oval as well. You can see some of those crossover points as well. The oval above where the road course goes. There's a couple of passing opportunities to talk about as well. And you said something that I don't necessarily agree with, Andrew, but this is why we love racing. Differences of opinions. This is a course where, in your opinion, there's camber, but in the wrong places.
Yeah, so particularly in the infield section of the road course, the camber is very, very flat to many of these corners. So it gives you less grip than you would expect through many of these corners, and it can actually quite trip you up if you get it wrong. When you get sort of back into the back section of the track, there's a little bit more camber, a little bit more grip out there to be had, particularly through that corner right there where you see Adam Blocker going through. But yeah, turns 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're very, very flat, and I mean, they don't suit my particular driving style very well, but I know that you quite enjoy this track, so it's definitely the case of every driver sort of has their own preference when it comes to driving like this, but it does present a very different challenge than what we've seen so far for many of these drivers.
I've had some fun endurance races here. I agree that maybe it's not always the most exhilarating to drive, don't get me wrong, but I think it's one that has plenty of challenges, plenty of fun. One thing to note as well, you saw Adam Blocker there, the championship leader and the defending champion, on pit entry. It is not a simple pit entry. You do have to brake a bit early and work your way through a little bit of chicane, so watch there in our one and only pit stop in today's race for a little bit of trouble. Here comes Robert Malechka III, winner already this season, the Powerslide Motorsport driver, getting a little bit loose on the exit of the corner. Adam Crane provisional pole. This will be the one and only lap for Malechka to put in. 33.81 for Crane, 31.131 for Malechka. As it stands right now, down in 10th position. A strong field, despite the fact it's just 14 cars here, Andrew.
Yeah, the way that the split worked out, because we only had 28 drivers and 26 is the split level, that has really allowed the cream to rise to the top here. I think it's a 4,200 plus strength of field here. So while we might not have a big field, we do have a very talented field here today.
Well, let's get ready to race then here in the land of the rising sun. Let's go trackside in Twin Ring Motegi to take a look at the starting grid for round 7 of this iRacing IndyCar Open Championship as we kick off the second half of the season. Adam Crane, the Canadian, puts it on pole position, but less than half a tenth behind. Adam Blocker will line up on the outside of the front row. Will Lyon and Brian Carey share row number 2, while Rashad Craig and Danilo Piazza are completing the top 6. David Porcelli and Doriano Ricciuti 7th and 8th spots. On the edge of the top 10, it's Andrew Marquez and Robert Malechka, while Alexander Van der Sant in 11th will be alongside the Italian Fabio Ciamballa. Christian Macarelli and Robin Glenix, the final cars in this 14-car race. Going to be a very fascinating one here with lots of potential passing opportunities. We'll see how close these cars are able to follow, Andrew.
Yeah, I think that's really going to be the key here, is if you have a car that can follow closely through some of these more technical sections of the track, it does produce some really good opportunities, but you have to have a car that handles well and can follow closely. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially between the different teams that we have here today, whose setups really suit that sort of close following, and whose are better for maybe leading and a little bit worse in dirty air.
Can see the cars lined up on the back straightaway, ready to roll. And like I said, might not have seen IndyCars race here in more than 10 years at this point in time, but we've seen plenty of things continue to come here. Fixture on the Super GT and the Super Formula schedules, of course, Japanese local series that see the cream of the crop of international motorsports come here. So much history here as well. Of course, the first woman in NTT IndyCar Series history to win, Danica Patrick winning on the oval. We also saw for the first time Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Jr. competing in an exhibition race against one another. In terms of predictions though, Andrew, how do you think this race is going to go?
I think that this is going to come down to Adam Crane and Adam Blocker, and tie goes to my teammate. I'm going to go with Adam Blocker to win this one.
Stop being so biased. We're already being told off for our bias on occasion, but we'll see how it goes. Adam Crane has been up and down in this 2022 Season 1 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship, but pace car off, down to the safety of pit road, field in control of Adam Crane with Adam Blocker, rivals alongside each other on the front row. Long hold from Crane as into the start zone we come. There we go. Throttle picked up. We're racing in the land of the rising sun. Will Lyon already to the inside of Adam Blocker as in towards turn number 1. We will go. Long way around for Blocker as he tries to roll his momentum through the corner. But Will Lyon already up into second place. Looks like all 14 cars have gotten through there safely as we work our way down into turn number 3.
That is a minor miracle that they got through that all safely, and Adam Blocker does take back second place from Will Lyon there. But yeah, Adam Crane, a little bit of a hold on the start there, which he has the right to do as a leader. He has the right to set that pace there, but it really bunched things up. Brian Carey very nearly lost out on a few positions. I think he managed to get some of them back at least, but it was a little bit of a messy start, a little bit of an exciting start, and I think we should definitely probably get a replay of all the action there at some point. But it's all sorted itself out now, and it is Adam Crane and Adam Blocker 1 and 2 once again.
Blocker bullied his way back past Will Lyon as a couple of cars locking up as they come through the mid portion of this track. Danilo Piazza took full advantage of that start, as did Doriano Ricciuti. Both cars gained 2 positions as they come down this back straightaway, plunge down the hill in towards that very tricky braking zone. The track falls away, gravity works against you. You'll see plenty of cars locking up the inside front over the course of this 31-lap event. Watch for those cones on the outside as well. I'm sure a couple of them will be strewn across the track as we finish the 31 laps here. But across the line for lap number 1, Adam Crane leads from Adam Blocker, Will Lyon, Danilo Piazza, and Brian Carey, the top 5. Looks like the back, there's a couple of moves going on, but this is one race where I do think we're going to see drivers just try and settle into the rhythm here, Andrew.
Yeah, it's very much a track where you need that rhythm, you need that comfort level, but at the same time, if you're Brian Carey or some of these drivers who maybe lost it just a little bit on that start, you definitely want to be trying to get by and deal with the person who passed you as soon as you can to try and maybe get back to where you sort of see yourself where you should be, and at the same time, like you look at the likes of Danilo Piazza or Ricciuti, you're just trying everything you can to settle into that rhythm and really sort of not let the car behind you really attack the car ahead. But we've already seen some lockups here. Even Adam Blocker is locking up the brakes into some of these corners, Arjuna.
He's really on the charge. Will Lyon has pulled about 7/10 to Piazza, so now starting to see some separation. Now that gap actually up to about 9/10 of a second, so really is starting to just open up as these drivers get comfortable and stretch their legs. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at what happened here on the start. Just look at how slow they're going. They're crawling, in effect, just waiting to unleash the horsepower of these cars. Will Lyon, I thought that Adam Crane was going to go as soon as he rounded that final corner, but patient from Crane, it did open the door eventually for Will Lyon to look to try and get to the inside. And look at that start from Piazza. That's where he gained the 2 positions on Carey and on Rashad Craig as Brian Carey tried to fight that one back.
Yeah, really strong start from Piazza. That was textbook. He was just patient enough, and as soon as Crane went, Piazza was also on the gas, and he really took advantage of that second row there. So really good stuff from Piazza.
as we focus back on what's happening out on track. No real passes happening in the last couple of minutes. It's all right now about that fight at the front as Blocker tries to chase down Adam Crane. Remember, one pit stop and drivers get the choice of primary or alternate tires. Primary are the black mark tire. They're a little bit harder, a little bit more durable, but they're a little bit slower, especially at the start of the stint. You'll notice that only 2 drivers have elected to run the primary tire, and given that the track conditions are relatively cool here, Andrew, we're racing in the morning, we're racing in March, 22 degrees in the air, 23 down on the track itself. Not entirely surprised to see the red mark tire be the primary option for the drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that given the conditions, red is definitely the way to go here. If we had had some hotter track temps, if it had been, again, maybe an afternoon skybox with a nice hot track, I think you probably could have seen the black tires become a little bit more viable, but the conditions as they are today, it is definitely a red tire race for this race. Adam Crane getting very wide through that final corner there, Arjuna.
Look at how Blocker's just keeping him on. It's keeping the pressure on. 2/10 in towards turn 1. Will Lyon not too far behind. Piazza still in draft range, but is starting to struggle ever so slightly. We'll jump on board with Adam Blocker and ride around here at Motegi. Watch through the braking zone how close he's able to come and how off the corner the relative car balance for these top 2 cars is looking. One thing that I really did notice, Andrew, is that we're looking at winds that are gusting at about 20 kilometers an hour. In this part of the track, maybe the oval is going to break that up a little bit, but through some of these S's that we're coming to now, maybe the wind is going to be throwing these cars around.
Yeah, and that's definitely a difficulty for the following car through these corners, and these corners are really, really important if you want to get a pass done here at Motegi. The best passing opportunity is down into, I can't remember what number the corner is, but the third to last corner. Basically, you go through the hairpin that they're about to go through onto this long backstretch, and that's really the best opportunity to use the push to pass, but you have to be able to be just close enough through that hairpin, and it's such a tall order, especially with the winds that are going on right now.
31 lap race, fuel window anywhere between 16-17 laps is on the button. Doriano Ricciuti, as he tries to close on Brian Carey, pull away from Rashad Craig. 1.2 seconds back, give or take, is a gap between 6th and 7th as through the final corner they work once more. That's a very tricky place to get the car balance right, especially given the low speed nature of that corner and how you're just putting the weight onto the tires to try and wring the speed out of the car. Through turns 1 and 2, though, Blocker still following in the tire tracks. Given how big the pit window is here, Andrew, surely the call is to try and get the undercut working here, especially with a relatively small field of cars.
Yeah, I definitely think that the undercut will be powerful. The question is whether or not having a lower fuel load will be even more powerful, because I think that you have basically 2 options here. You either have the undercut and go basically as early as you possibly can, or stay out as long as you can on this fuel load here, and then use all of the ability that you have in those fresh tires and low fuel at the end of the race to try and make it up. I think probably the undercut is the better way to go, but there is that option that some of these drivers who maybe are getting held up might try to do something different. That's the way to try and do something different if I'm one of these drivers here today.
We'll see how things will work then, as there was a swap around between the 2 Powerslide teammates, Alexander Van der Sant and Robert Malechka. Malechka's now down in 10th as Van der Sant tries to fight his way forward, but look at that. A half a car length at best between the top 2 as down the hill they come, starting to break away from Will Lyon. Now 1 second back is the new Indy Alliance driver, as once more 5 laps in the books across the line we come. Can Lyon do anything to keep these drivers on, as Piazza's falling back as well? Clearly what we're seeing is that it's relatively difficult to follow in clean air, or in dirty air, excuse me, Andrew. Or do you just think that these top 2 are just pretty similar in terms of the pace?
Yeah, Adam Blocker's really pressuring him, but the problem is that Blocker's pressuring him at the wrong portions of the track. Like we mentioned, that back straightaway is really the best passing opportunity. This is another one coming up here. We might just see a move coming from Blocker. Shows the nose, but not quite. But there are a very finite number of passing opportunities on this track, so right now it looks like the power slide car is working better in the wrong places for Adam Blocker. So it'll be interesting to see maybe as the run goes on if that changes. But for right now, I think Blocker might have a little bit faster pace than Crane, but Crane is doing a great job just putting the car exactly in the middle of the track, taking the best line, and doing a great job. Ooh, that was a big lock up there from Rashad Craig.
I think Doriano Ricciuti had a moment of his own that's opened the door for the 11 machine to try and sling it down the inside on the back straightaway. Piazza's on the button. I'm sure we'll see these drivers, 3 of them, all on that push to pass, 60 to 70 horsepower, throwing them down the hill. Porcelli wants to make it 3 wide. He'll look to the inside. We'll have to back out of that one. Contact between Craig and Ricciuti. Craig's the one off into the gravel. Going on through, I think Ricciuti had a moment as well there.
All sorts of chaos into that corner there, Arjuna. Yeah, I think Craig just got in there a little bit too hot, locked up the brakes just a little bit, and slid wide into Ricciuti. And I think both Ricciuti and Craig are the losers there. But the big winner through that whole sequence was Alexander Van de Sant, who went all the way up to 7th from 9th there. So 2 places up for Van de Sant through that whole bit of chaos there.
Take a look at the replay. Not an easy qualifying for Van de Sant, but look at him lurking in the background as tried to go 3 wide. David Porcelli thought about it. Craig may have locked up a little bit, left Ricciuti no option but to come into his path, because of course he needs to turn in as well, given the way that that corner falls away from you. But ultimately both of them lose out in that scenario. Look at this battle though, still for the lead. Will Lyon hanging on close and in fact has closed that gap very slightly as we take a look on the left-hand side at the push-to-pass usages so far in this race. Crane has already burned through 2 of the 10 allotments that he has. Blocker and Lyon have been pretty patient, pretty calm in terms of maybe saving it till the end. One thing that we know, Andrew, is I say this way too much now that I'm thinking about it. It's not just push to pass, it's push to defend as well. And so making sure you have the ability to lean on those extra horsepower grunts at the end of this race really is crucial.
Absolutely, it's crucial. And one thing that we know about Adam Blocker is that he loves to save these push to passes for the end. I think he's confident in his ability to stay with Crane no matter what Crane does, no matter how many push to passes Crane uses. Blocker's confident in his ability to stay with him, and it allows him to save the push to passes to the end. And really, he's been doing a great job without using them of just keeping that pressure on Crane, and you just get the feeling that Crane is under enormous pressure as we see Adam Blocker closing right up under the brakes, right up under Crane's rear wing. He's really feeling the pressure at this point, Arjuna.
And there are plenty of places to pass, but again, Murray Walker said it best. It's one thing to catch, it's totally another thing to pass, and at least for now, I don't know if this is calmness and biding his time on the part of Adam Blocker, or if it's just that inability to get close enough to really affect the paths at this point in the race. Do believe as well, by the way, that David Porcelli has been passed by Alexander Van de Sant. He's now up 5 positions, up into 6, but still all the while, top 3 starting to just break away. Piazza's now almost completely out of the drafting range. We're looking at a 3-way fight, and for Will Lyon, he's really in the best seat to just save some fuel and maybe try and, if he can't get the undercut working, Andrew, we have said that it's relatively cool track conditions. Go longer, fill less fuel into that car, get more benefit from a lighter car at the end of this first stint, and try and get it done in the pits as Adam Blocker went very deep into the braking zone, locked the tires up, and almost ran into the back of Adam Crane.
It's amazing how close Adam Blocker has been getting to Adam Crane through a number of these corners, Arjuna. It's really, really telling just how deep Adam can go into these corners and yet still make the same corner speed as Crane. Like, you can just see how confident Adam is on the brakes, and that's a hallmark of a really well-handling car. And I think that this setup, whatever Power Slide has on this car right now, it's suiting Adam. It doesn't look like it's quite the same for Van de Sant and Malechka and Carey, but it really suits Adam Blocker right now.
And one thing that we'll point out is that the Lionheart IndyCar Series, where Adam Blocker is now a 4-time champion, will be looking to make it 5 in a row, will be coming here to Motegi, not just for the traditional oval race, but for the Grand Prix race as well. So something to keep your mind on is heading into the future. In 2022 on RaceSpotTV, we'll see plenty of action here at Twin Ring Motegi. Of course, the Lionheart Speedway Series started its 2021 and indeed its history here at Twin Ring Motegi in a dramatic race that saw Dean Mull take the victory when all things were said and done. 9 laps about to be complete, so about halfway through this opening stint of the race. And again, this is a venue, Andrew, which has seen so many different series come and race here. And the one thing that really stood out in my mind was the fact that you think for Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Jr., the first time that they'd race against one another wouldn't have been outside of the U.S. It just happened, though, to be here at Motegi for an exhibition race just goes to tell you, even though Motegi's just over 20 years old, it's got plenty of history across of the different series that have come and visited here.
Absolutely, and I really do hope that in the real world that they can fix the oval and bring maybe IndyCar back to Twin Ring Motegi, because it really is a venue that suits IndyCar and suits racing in general, especially on the oval track. It's a very wide track. Even the road course you can see is a very wide track. Even though I've railed against it a little bit already, saying it's not my personal favorite, it is a state-of-the-art venue, really smooth, really well put together, really well maintained. So I do hope that IndyCar possibly in the future comes back to Twin Ring Motegi, whether it's on the road course or the oval. I just happen to think that they maybe need a few more ovals in real life, and Motegi would be a great venue to have that.
I think that's a sentiment shared by a large majority of the NTT IndyCar Series fan base. Blocker's still close, but as they come through the hairpin to where there's a DRS zone, because of course, I believe this is a venue which hosted open wheel World Championship races here in iRacing. You're also looking at the battle between 9th and 10th as Rashad Craig, after being forced off the road, lost now 5 positions from where he started, is working on the back of Robert Malechka as they come down the hill. Crane getting a little bit wide as well. Does that open the door potentially for Adam Blocker to try and get the move done? Craig works his way up into 9th position. Adam Blocker does look to the inside, just not able to get onto the brakes late enough, and Crane holds on once more.
Yeah, that front straightaway is just not quite long enough to get that move done, but Adam Blocker has been all over the back of Adam Crane throughout this entire race. And if I'm Crane, I might be getting a little bit antsy having Blocker that close to me throughout all these laps. It surely is a lot of pressure. Looks out into turn 5 once again and thinks better of it. But like, if you're Adam Crane, you've got to be thinking that there's just an incredible amount of pressure. And at a certain point, you're just like, I kind of wish this guy would just try and pass me so that, if anything, at least the battle is over for a little bit. But it's really good racing between these two.
And this is where you see the idea of even if you can't make the move happen, put the pressure on the driver in front. Get them feeling like the move is forthcoming into every single corner. Maybe try and force them to defend, but Adam Crane hasn't bidden. He hasn't really fallen for the bait just yet. So as they come down the hill once more, if there's going to be a move, surely it's going to have to be assisted by the push to pass, Andrew, to make that gap close up very slightly.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's likely to be a push to pass move, but the other thing to consider, Arjuna, particularly if these drivers don't come down the pit road at the same time, one of the big thing with racing is that you get into a rhythm. So if Adam Crane is getting into a nice rhythm with the amount of pressure that Adam Blocker has, and suddenly there is no more pressure anymore, as we might see a move here, Adam Crane gets defensive, Blocker to the outside, no way for Blocker to get around the outside, but he might come back on the exit of this corner. Oh, this is very close stuff here from Crane and Blocker. Crane defensive again.
And he goes on the push to pass to defend. So I said before that he wasn't maybe taking the bait, feeling the pressure. Now, well, maybe slightly different inside of that VRS Satellite Racing car. It was close as well on the braking zone down into turn 3. Crane almost forcing Blocker off the road, and Blocker looks to the outside once more. Had a nose inside, but Crane slams the door shut. It is getting increasingly physical as in through the infield they come. Blocker will sling it down the inside and forces Crane off the road. Blocker to the race lead, but here comes Will Lyon, and Adam Crane will have to live to fight another day.
Oh my word. I think in that case, Arjuna, it was just a case of Adam Blocker got tired of all the defensive moves from Adam Crane throughout that lap, and he just said, I'm taking this inside line. You can either run into the side of me or run off the track. But yeah, Adam Blocker finally through there after an enormous amount of pressure, and it'll be really interesting to see if Adam Crane can regroup himself now and get back after Will Lyon and Adam Blocker here.
Let's watch this entire sequence on the replay. They come down in towards turn 5. Blocker once more tries the up and under, but Crane parked it on the apex. Good defensive driving there, but he was clearly just feeling the pressure. Blocker now once more look to try and get the pass done. Let's jump on board with Blocker and look at him around the outside there. Thought for a moment he was going to be able to come to the inside of this right-hand hairpin, just not able to do so. Crane slamming that door shut. Blocker said, enough is enough. I want this position away from you, and bundled himself down the inside, forced Crane off the road. And well, now Crane 2 seconds back from the race lead, still has a chance of fighting here, Andrew, but it is going to take a almighty miracle for anyone to stop Adam Blocker, because he's now trying to run away from Will Lyon.
But I gotta say, Arjuna, Will Lyon is looking incredibly strong in his Indy Alliance Racing debut here. He just joined just before the Daytona 24 Hours after the last race, and he is doing a fantastic job staying with Adam Blocker. Even now that Blocker might be a little bit released, Will Lyon is not letting him get away at this point.
Yeah, he's doing good. We've seen Will Lyon in some colorful liveries, not always on broadcast because we don't necessarily want to get in trouble, but he's had some interesting liveries, and now officially part of the Indy Alliance program. Can he hunt down Adam Blocker? Fastest lap has gone to Will Lyon, who put in a 32.334 a while back. Last time across the line for Adam Blocker was a 33.327. Will Lyon about 2 and a bit tenths slower with a 33.487. Adam Crane a tenth slower than that with a 5.95. So indication that Blocker is now released, and 14 laps into this race, you could hypothetically come down and take your one and only stop. But if you're Adam Blocker, take full advantage of this clean air now, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm Adam Blocker, I'm trying to stretch this out as long as I can, keeping in mind that I don't want to let Will Lyon have a shot at the undercut. But as long as Will Lyon is staying out, if I'm Adam Blocker, I'm going probably one lap further than Lyon. But the other thing that I want to say, Arjuna, is we are 14 laps into this race, and the top 5 is still covered by right around 5 seconds. So we were maybe a little bit worried about having less action when we only had 14 drivers. These drivers are proving that you don't need a high car count in order to have some fantastic action on the track.
No, I mean, you think about what we see on Tuesday nights in the Real Racers Virtual Club. Yes, they've got a rather eclectic group of drivers. You've got real-world superstars, I should say superstars, drivers like Stefan Wilson, even up-and-comers on the road to Indy, including Nolan Siegel, Rob McGuinness, etc., etc. But then you've got people who dabble in motorsport, in track
Blocker's
days.
in.
Blocker come down to pit, so that's early. I wonder if this is a call to try and just extend the gap with fresh rubber. Will Lyon will take over the race lead. Adam Crane follows Blocker down into pit road. So interesting strategy call. We'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if both Blocker and Crane short-filled to begin this race in order to try and maximize how fast they could go through that first bit of the race, and knowing that they were probably going to be doing battle with each other. So this is when the piper gets paid just a little bit here, I think, Arjuna. If Will Lyon was able to keep pace with both of them for so long and can go longer and will have less fuel and less stop time, this could be an advantage to Will Lyon, but he's got to make sure that he probably has to come in this lap or the lap after, I think.
It is an interesting suggestion, and probably I don't know if I agree with that strategy. What we've seen in the last couple of days here on RaceSpot is you want to try and minimize the time in pit lane, and I think you're right, because Blocker and Crane pit stop times upwards of 9 seconds, which is a bit longer than I think I might have expected. So we will wait and see. Will Lyon is coming down the hill now, lap 15, so could go maybe 2 laps longer from here. Alexander Van der Zandt on the button as he tries to close to his teammate Brian Carey. 3/10 faster last time for Van der Zandt, bit by bit trying to work his way forward. Will Lyon stays out. Do we see Danilo Piazza come in? No, he'll stay out along with Brian Carey and Alexander Van der Zandt. So the top 4 all staying out there. David Porcelli followed in by Doriano Ricciuti.
A very interesting strategy here from some of these drivers in the top 5. I really expected at least a couple of them to try and cover off Blocker and Crane, because you generally have about half a lap to 3/4 of a lap to really get those tires working again. But now that that's gone by, Blocker and Crane with the fresh rubber, it's going to be very difficult for these drivers to try and work that undercut any more than this. So not sure that I agree with all of these drivers staying out, but at the same time, it is a risk that some of these drivers, particularly if you're in the back half of that top 10 like Brian, or top 5 like Brian Carey. Oh no!
That's David Porcelli, who's found himself way off the track down at turn 5, I think. Oh no, that's turn 2. He's lost it coming out of pit lane. So cold tires for the number 3 car that qualified decently, but seems to have just made a hash of pit exit. Let's see here. Plenty of speed. Just carries too much of that momentum into the corner and, well, has to try and lock up the tires through the gravel. He slides and just about keeps it out of the wall. Right on board here and see what happened from his perspective. You can just see way too much speed. Not expecting the cold tires to bite him that hard, but for David Porcelli, a lot of hard work to be done once more. Across the line it will be Will Lyon once more. Danilo Piazza will come in this time by. Oh, this is an interesting strategy call. Looks like Brian Carey will stay out, but Alexander Van der Zandt will follow Piazza in.
First of all, I want to say, what did I say about the infield corners and the cambers catching people out because you can't go as fast as you think you can through those corners? We just saw that with David Porcelli there. But I like this call from Van der Zandt and from Piazza. I think that they needed to come in, cover off what Adam Blocker and Adam Crane were doing. But what a drive so far from Alexander Van der Zandt. He's really got himself back into this race after not qualifying well.
Another car's off the track.
Brian.
Has he done?
Brian.
He's done it at turn 5, hasn't he? It's so easy to do. I've done that mistake before. We'll go straight to the replay and check out what happened here, and it will mean that Carey would have been pushing because he would have seen Van der Zandt come in, and that.
Yeah, he was on the curb coming in, and you can't brake on the curb like he was. It's just one of those things where you can't get that far on the curb. Your brakes just lock up, and you'd go straight in. Brian knows better than this, but it's one of those things where sometimes he just, I think, was pushing a little bit too hard, probably having to come in this time around, and was trying to get in the best lap he could. Meanwhile, really close battle here between Christian Macarelli and Adam Blocker. Blocker just got around him. And Will Lyon into the pits. That hold up with Macarelli could be the difference for Will Lyon getting out in front of him.
I don't think it will matter. It will be all about the stop time here for Lyon, but Blocker last time by with a 31.903, fastest lap of the race, was about half a second faster than Will Lyon, who's in pit lane and waiting to release himself off of the jacks. Where is Blocker in comparison as Lyon comes off the lane? There's Blocker. He's got to get off the limiter as well. Don't forget, Blocker's up to speed and already gone. Crane side by side with Lyon, but tires up to temperature and pressure. Crane takes back second spot. Gap between Blocker and Crane, 3.8 seconds.
And that just goes to show what those fresh tires really meant for Adam Crane and Adam Blocker. Will Lyon just stayed out, I think, a couple of laps too long there. He really needed to cover off Blocker and Crane the lap after they pitted, and even if he had fuel left in the tank, just taking that less time on pit road. As it was, I think that it just didn't work out the way that Lyon wanted with just how old those tires were and the performance drop-off.
We'll now see how close it will be between Crane and Lyon in terms of the pace. Lyon was able to hold on to the train of Blocker and Crane without pushing too hard. Now, still just over 10 laps to go. Will he be able to push that little bit harder? We're also watching Andrew Marquez, and now will have to defend from the frustrated and I'm sure full of steam David Porcelli, who got around Robert Malechka III coming in towards turn number 1, and in through the infield they'll come. Porcelli closing bit by bit. There will also be a battle forthcoming between Danilo Piazza and Alexander Van der Sant. 6.5 tenths separating this time by Porcelli a little bit deep into the corner, trying to veer it off the exit and get the momentum, but he's not going to be close enough. Already burned through 6 of his push-to-passes, Andrew. He's running out of opportunities to make this one stick as Will Lyon looks to the outside.
Yeah, Will Lyon coming on to the outside of Adam Crane. It's the long way around. It's really difficult with the camber of that corner to make it work, but he's really using those fresh tires, and I think he's actually made that move work. What a move from Will Lyon there. He's got the inside line through turns 3 and 4 here. Excellent, excellent driving from Will Lyon. I think that's probably one of the strongest moves. I don't recall the last time I've seen someone make a move around the outside of turn 1 here at Twin Ring Motegi.
It was great. That was bold and just full of confidence. Porcelli trying to look to the inside of the New Yorker Andrew Marquez, just a little bit too far back. He'll have to hold station for now. Burned another of his push-to-passes that last time. Really going to be difficult for him to hold on. We talk about the push-to-pass numbers. Let's show you the situation. Left side of the screen, Will Lyon, all 10 push-to-passes left at his discretion. Unlikely to be able to close the 5 seconds to Adam Blocker, but will be able to potentially defend from Adam Crane. Not far back, about 2 seconds now, 1.5 seconds, excuse me, down the road is Danilo Piazza, who is getting reeled in by Van der Sant. Piazza's used half the button, pushes. Van der Sant still has 8 of them left. So seeing how this race is playing out, Brian Carey, as he tries to recover from his own mistake, has now fallen from 5th on the road, down to 8th on the road. So plenty of drivers with extra power to burn here, Andrew, in the closing stages. This time around, it's 12 laps to go.
Yeah, now is the time for a number of these drivers to really start burning the push-to-passes. Like Will Lyon, it's basically 11 to go for Will this time around, and he's got 10 pushes left. So if I were him, I would start burning 1 push-to-pass per back straightaway for the rest of this race, basically just trying to get back to the draft range of Adam Blocker, because the one thing that we do have to consider is because Will Lyon went further, he does have fresher tires, so his tires won't drop off quite the same way that Adam Blocker and Adam Crane did. I think that was definitely a factor in the pass that Will Lyon made around the outside of Crane, but will it be enough of a factor in order for him to get back to the draft range of Adam Blocker here?
I get the sense that maybe not. We'll see. We will wait and see. He's
already cut out almost half a tenth from Adam Blocker this lap alone, I think, Arjuna.
Yeah, but I'd argue that maybe Blocker's just taking it easy, knowing that he's got to, if he saves the tires, he'll be in a position to maybe try and fight that one back later in the race if Will Lyon does have the pace to close. On board with Alexander Van der Sant, riding in P5s after starting outside of the top 10. He's +6 from where he qualified in this race. Now putting the pressure onto Danilo Piazza in that number 6 car, working through that final corner. It is slightly off camber. And was that Crane losing it? It was! Adam Crane, more disaster for the Canadian here today. How much damage does that VRS Satellite Racing car have? At least he's got front wing damage. Does he have side pod damage? That will be the question.
Yeah, definitely big damage for Adam Crane. Just loses it coming out of the final chicane there, Arjuna, and it's just unfortunate for the Canadian driver, the Satellite Racing driver. And he's definitely going to need to take a pit stop here to get this fixed, and with how competitive this field is, that's probably a top 10 fallen by the wayside. You can see on the replay on the bottom here, he just gets on the power just a little bit too hard on the grass as he gets on the power. And we saw him get away with that earlier on in the race, but he just doesn't get away with it the second time. Hits the inside wall, loses the front wing, and that is basically the hopes and dreams of Adam Crane up in smoke in that one move there.
He is helping his fellow Canadian Brian Carey close on Doriano Ricciuti. Carey will go around the outside as Crane limps that car back down to pit road. Now just 0.2 of a second separating Carey from Ricciuti's rear end into the hairpin. One of the penultimate corners on the track, they will come. Van der Sant's on the button as he closes to 0.2 back from Danilo Piazza, but he's not close enough to make the move happen. Brian Carey and Ricciuti both using that extra horsepower down the hill. Carey not going to be able to get the move done, but he's got an advantage. 4 push-to-passes left for Ricciuti, 7 to Carey. So it's now about, just like we saw with Adam Blocker on Adam Crane earlier in this race, as Crane will have to come down and pit that car. It's about putting that pressure onto Ricciuti, trying to get him to burn through the push-to-pass here, Andrew, and put him in the position of not being able to defend at the end of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian is in full salvage mode at this point, and I know that he will desperately want to try and get by Ricciuti, but I agree with you. I think that the best thing that he can do right now is just keep that pressure on Ricciuti as best he can and hope that Ricciuti makes a mistake and opens up the door for him, because I do think that Brian might be just a little bit faster, but it's not a large pace difference between these two drivers. So having that mistake happen and allowing the door to be opened is going to be important for Brian Carey if he can make this move happen.
Looks like David Porcelli managed to wrestle back 8th spot, what is now 8th spot, as a result of Crane's mistake from Andrew Marquez. Might open the door for Malechka to follow him through as well, as Carey really getting close to the rear end. And I think day done for Adam Crane, because I've just seen, I think, coming out of pit lane for him, he has lost it out of turn number 1. Back to the garage he goes. An unfortunate day for the Canadian. Great to have him back at least on.
This might be it for Carey here. Really close coming out of the hairpin.
He's close. Look at the spider cam down this back straightaway. Carey will try and get it late on the brakes. Ricciuti says, you can have it. I won't fight that one any longer. And Carey at least will get himself back up into 6th. Now we'll turn the attention back to Carey's teammate Alexander Van der Sent, half a second back from Piazza. And while we watch these cars, Andrew, Will Lyon now 4.7 seconds back from Adam Blocker. So whatever happened to Blocker that one lap where Lyon reeled in almost a full second, he's managed to pick up the pace once more and keep that gap steady.
Yeah, the gap is definitely stabilized between Blocker and Lyon, but this battle between Piazza and Van der Sent is on, and Van der Sent, I'm sure at the beginning of this race, was not thinking that a podium would be possible, but here he is battling with Piazza for a podium position, and I think that the power slide driver, as this race has gone on, has only gotten more and more confident, so I would not be surprised if Van der Sent is able to wrestle this away from Piazza.
And this is a track where if you don't feel comfortable with the flow, Andrew, it's so easy to just lose time. As simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely a place where you need to be comfortable. You need to be very confident on your braking, especially. You have to locate your brakes really well, because you don't have that camber to really rely on. I hate to go back at it because I feel like I've said camber like 10 times in this broadcast already, but it really is true where when you have a flat track, it's very, very important that you hit your marks almost perfectly lap after lap in order to maximize your time. Otherwise, you're losing heaps and heaps of time. But here's Van der Sent really, really close here coming out of the final corner.
On the button once more, and Piazza will go defensive. Around the outside, can Van der Sent make it stick? The old dog's car slides itself out wide. Van der Sent gets his nose chopped off. Fair defending. Van der Sent tried to make it happen. He burned through a couple of push-to-passes to get close. They've now evened themselves out. Both have 5 push-to-passes left till the end of this race as we work our way towards 5 laps to go.
That was so tight coming out of turn 2 there. It was fair play from Piazza, but at the same time, I'm sure Van der Sent did not appreciate just how close that they came to wrecking coming out of turn 2 there, but no harm, no foul. They didn't touch. It was all good. Really close racing. Excellent to see a battle like this taking shape this late in the race, and it just goes to show again just the level of competitiveness in this IR18 this season.
And it kind of also builds off the point, Andrew, where you said you don't need 14. You can have 14 cars and they can still put on a hell of a show.
Absolutely. All you need is drivers of this caliber that can really take it wheel to wheel, nose to tail, lap after lap. We saw it early on in the race with Blocker and Crane. We're seeing it now with Van der Sent and Piazza. On the bottom of your screen, though, this is what happened with Adam Crane, that he finally pulled it in after that spin, loses it out of turn 4, spins back into the wall, and I think that was just a case of after the third incident, 3 strikes, you're out. Adam Crane just decided to cut his losses on this one and is retired from this race.
I wonder if he had still had damage, because that's a weird place for the balance of the car to shift like that, especially coming out of the pit lane. Maybe cold tires played a factor, but wouldn't be totally shocked, given how he hit that wall fairly hard, Andrew, if there was more damage that was not able to be repaired.
Yeah, I suspect he probably had some lingering suspension damage that was affecting his driving there. The new damage model does allow many things to be repaired, but they don't always get repaired 100%. They'll get repaired 90, 95%, and sometimes, especially depending on the setup of your car, that 95% might be all it takes to really upset the balance. So I do suspect that's what happened there with Adam Crane.
So out of the 14 that started, 2 retired. We missed what happened with Christian Macarelli, but he was the first retirement, and of course we've just seen what ended the day for Adam Crane. Van der Sant's on the button. We're looking rearwards from Danilo Piazza as once more they come down the start-finish line. Now an advantage for push to passes to Van der Sant, who will try and stick it around the outside line. Long way around, but it gives you the inside for the next part of the corner. They touch with one another. They touch once more. Piazza gets forced off the track. He'll rejoin safely. This is a battle just continuing to intensify as Van der Sant lights up the rear end.
We've sometimes referred to netcode as air. What's the opposite of air there? It looked like they netcoded through each other a little bit coming out of that corner there, but all's fair there in passing. I got halfway through that and I didn't know where to go with that. I'll let you take back over.
Yeah, Van der Sant off the track and into the grass, almost looped it. Piazza went wide as well. He'll be on the button this time as in towards turn number 5 they come. Not going to be able to take advantage of that one. It will be 5 laps to go next time by. It's coming to the wire. Piazza, look at him on the button through the short part that leads you into the S's. He'll have the inside. They touch once more. Piazza gets shoved off, and I think Van der Sant, oh, the iRacing gods have smiled on him because he lost a bit of his front wing and it decided to magically reappear.
Guys, you can't do this with an IndyCar. You can't keep beating and banging on each other and have your car come out straight, but somehow these drivers have allowed that to happen so far. They haven't hit each other quite hard enough.
Piazza almost looped it by himself. The tires were feeling the strain, just as I'm sure Piazza was feeling the strain of that little battle. It will separate out for now, but you're right, you can't do this in an IndyCar. They're strong and they're sturdy, but there's a limit to how much you can get away with.
Yeah, and I think that little half spin from Piazza is just an indication of just how hard both of those drivers were pushing for that entire lap. I'm sure that neither of them really appreciated how much contact the other was giving them, but I really do think that most of those contacts that we saw were just racing incidents between the two of them. It was just good, hard racing, and fortunately it looks like both of those drivers have come out none the worse for wear, and it'll be interesting to see if Piazza can sort of regroup himself just a little bit here and gain time back on Alexander Van der Sant, or whether Van der Sant has really gotten a stranglehold on that final podium position here.
It is about 2.5 seconds, so I would postulate, and Piazza's in fact down a couple of tenths even this lap from our indications on the timing screen, so would suspect that maybe in fact he might even have to defend to hold on to 4th position as Rashad Craig closes bit by bit now, 1.7 seconds back as through the S's they will work. Oh, well, if that's what we're in for this second half of the season, I'm looking forward to it, Andrew. We've got plenty of fascinating racing to come. Of course, a week from now, we'll go short track racing once more, and for the final time this season. We know that Richmond likes to put on a show. The question is, can we avoid the dreaded Turn 2 curse, and can we try and stay under green flag conditions for as long as possible?
Yeah, I was going to say, Arjuna, I know off the top of the show that we showed Power Slide being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I think that this race so far has really shown that it is not Power Slide domination here. Will Lyon has been mashing Adam Blocker for lap time, lap for lap here. Van der Sant, Piazza, Crane doing a great job for so much of this race. This is an extremely competitive field here in the iRacing IndyCar community on Monday nights here. And Richmond, again, yeah, it's one of those tracks where if you miss the setup even a little bit, and it's so easy to miss the setup, just
even on weather and track temperature alone, that turn 2 is such a treacherous corner that it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here in 1 week's time.
And kind of building off that, I mean, before this race started, the practice sessions that all of these drivers were in getting warmed up was foggy. You could not see even about 300 meters in front of you on the track, let alone further than that, or maybe even closer. I was not paying full attention. I was just trying to see how we could actually understand who was on track at what point in time. So you talk about the changing weather conditions. With this dynamic iRacing model, Andrew, that really is a big factor.
Oh, absolutely. And it really does, depending on the track conditions, favor different setups and different setup philosophies, especially on the oval, but also on the road courses. You look at a track, even you mentioned this track in particular, but like if you look at a track like Road America, for instance, we had so many different wing angles and so many different downforce levels, and part of the reason that was possible was because of where we were on the track temperature. If it had been any colder, then we would have seen a lot more low downforce setups. If it had been a lot hotter, then we would have seen a lot more high downforce setups. So it really has a big effect on exactly how you set up these cars, especially on some of these lower downforce tracks and on the ovals as well.
Look at how Rashad Craig continues to close. I think that Piazza burned through those Firestones on his car, and he's really just not looking like he's got any grip to try and defend, because Craig is now 3/10 off, and I don't think Piazza's going to be able to hold off the charge of the 11 machine.
Yeah, I think Piazza's going to do everything he possibly can, though. We've already seen that he is more than willing to get out the bumpers on his car just a little bit. And don't look now, but Brian Carey on his comeback drive is just behind this battle. So if anything does start to happen here, Brian Carey could be another factor in this battle in the final 3 laps here.
Would be a bit of redemption after the mistake for Brian Carey on his in-lap into the pits. On the button, Rashad Craig trying to close bit by bit. Piazza burns through his final push to pass. After this one, 2 to go. Rashad Craig, 3 usages of the button still left. They're close but not close enough. Coming to the end of this race, Adam Blocker has a 6.5 second advantage over Will Line. Well, Van der Sant is a further 12 seconds down the road. It's all focused, though, on the battle for 4th. Bit by bit, Brian Carey closes. Is he going to have a chance to make this one happen, or is Rashad Craig going to get 4th and run away from the Canadian? We're about to find out.
I am on pins and needles for these last 2 laps, Arjuna. This is some great battling that we've seen. Rashad Craig, he feints to the inside. Piazza gets defensive, and they stay status quo, but all the while they're weaving in and out on the straightaway, here comes Brian Carey, corner by corner now, getting closer and closer to this battle.
He's inside drafting range, but will it be enough? Looks like Fabio Ciamballa might have had his own little moment off the road. Watch on board with the Canadian Brian Carey as into the S's they'll come, sweeping left then right and back into a left-hand hairpin. Adam Blocker, as he tends to do, burning through the push-to-passes at the end of this race, asserting his dominance on the field. But don't be mistaken, Adam Crane really made Adam Blocker not just fight for it, but get the punches really swinging. Through the hairpin for the penultimate time. Piazza again is out of push-to-passes. Brian Carey has got plenty of them still to play with. He's closing bit by bit. 1 lap to go as Adam Blocker crosses the line to get the white flag out. This is going to be a run to the checkered flag.
And Brian with that push-to-pass, he is there now. This is a 3-horse battle for that 4th place. Podium is out of the question for any of these 3, barring some kind of disaster from the leading 3, but I think that this last lap is going to be a barn burner from these 3. Rashad Craig already looking to the outside, Piazza defending. Really close stuff through 1 and 2 there.
Just doesn't look as though Piazza's got the tires to be able to do anything about the fighting, but if he can get the run off the corner and block the momentum of the cars behind, never say never, he might just be able to hold on to this one. Brian Carey is looming as well, but they'll head in towards Sector 2, status quo remaining. Only a couple of passing opportunities left here, Andrew.
Yeah, but we've seen that this is where a lot of the passing so far today has happened, Arjuna. And Rashad Craig is right on the back of Piazza. Piazza is doing everything he can. This is where his tires are really, really hurting, I think. And if Rashad Craig can get a good exit out of these corners, he might just be able to make a move.
One more hairpin to go for them, but here comes Adam Blocker to round the final quarter in a fight where he had to get physical. Adam Blocker wins again here in the iRacing IndyCar Open Series, extends his championship lead as he tries to defend the championship. Will Lyons should hold on to second. All eyes focus though as the tower is lit up like a Christmas tree. Carey as well as Craig on the button, they're not able to close, and by some miracle, Danilo Piazza will hold on to fourth position, despite the fact that it looks like for a while he had absolutely no grip left in that Dallara IR18. Craig uses the button to make it close, but it's not close enough. Rounding out the podium, Alexander Van der Sant, very good recovery drive after missing out in qualifying. But again, the day goes to Adam Blocker.
Yeah, what a drive from Adam Blocker today. He really, especially in that last portion of the race, asserted his dominance on this race. And a really strong debut from Will Lyon as well for that Indy Alliance Racing. Again, he just joined the team just recently, so this is exactly the type of debut I think that they were hoping for from Will Lyon.
Was a fascinating race from start to finish. Again, you don't need many cars to put on a show, you just need willing participants. We'll go ahead then and take a look at our race results. 31 laps in twin ring Motegi, and it's Adam Blocker, another win here in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. For Indy Alliance on debut on a Monday night, Will Lyon comes home in second, 7.2 seconds down the road, while Alexander Van der Sant is our biggest mover of the day, qualified outside of the top 10, finishes in third +8 on this race. Danilo Piazza holds on to the line. Tires falling away from him, but Piazza held on to fourth. Rashad Craig, Brian Carey in close pursuit. Half a tenth between Piazza and Craig. Gioriano Ricciuti finishes in seventh with David Porcelli in eighth. Andrew Marquez and Robert Milechka complete the top 10. While rounding out the field, Fabio Ciambala, Robin Glenix, final finishers in the race, while Christian Maccarelli as well as Adam Crane retired from what was an entertaining race. And just a reminder, we might not see this track really too much in the real world, Andrew, but it knows how to put on a show. And you and I were saying how we'd love to see cars return here, American open-wheel cars return here, whether it be on the Grand Prix layout, whether it be on the oval. Today proved why we want that so.
Yeah, absolutely. It put on a fantastic show here today, Arjuna, and it just goes to show we had everyone who finished the race finished on the lead lap here today, and it just shows again the level of competition and the level of talent here in the iRacing IndyCar series. Just a fantastic race. There was battles, there was drama throughout the field. Fantastic race here today.
Well, we are waiting to try and get some post-race victory interviews. We will fill for just a couple of moments time while we wait for Adam Blocker to enter virtual victory lane. But a reminder, next week, same place, same time, Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, we'll be live from the virtual Richmond Raceway on the banks of a very interesting short course, and under the night lights as well. It's going to be a really fascinating race. You think back to what we saw in Iowa, Andrew. They're both short tracks, but very, very different.
Yeah, it's definitely a different beast here at Richmond. You don't have the progressive banking. The banking isn't quite as steep as Iowa, and the speedway is a little bit shorter, so all of that produces just a little bit tighter action here at Richmond, and the margin for error is razor thin. So all these drivers have definitely got to be on their best behavior and on their peak performance when we go to Richmond in 1 week's time.
Well, we are now joined by Adam Blocker in victory lane. Adam, talk to us about that fight with Adam Crane. It got physical by the end when contact between the two of you forced Crane off the road, but it just looked as though if you were going to get the move done, it was going to require something like that here out on track.
Yeah, obviously I think I was a lot faster, because if you're able to be 0.2, 0.3 behind every lap, constantly pressuring, I think, So I was kind of waiting on a mistake, and he made one on the exit of 2 that lap. So he defended a couple places, and I really thought that I had a good run through the S's, and or when I was on the outside, but he closed the door, and I think that was fair enough. And yeah, I sent it into the next corner, and I meant to leave him more room than that. So honestly, I have to apologize for that. I wasn't sure what it was like, what it looked like in the car, so I just kept going. But honestly, if I had seen what it looked like, I probably would have given him the spot. But yeah, so that was a bit unfortunate for it to end like that, but I think I could have just been patient and passed him in the pit stop sequence, but yeah.
And going to that pit stop sequence, Andrew's hypothesis was that both you and Adam Crane short-filled to try and run away from the field, and that was why you came in so early. Was that the case, or was there something else amiss?
No, I started on full tank at least. I can't speak for Adam, but I was just afraid of the undercut, like if Will, he was so close to me, and I knew it was so hard to pass from getting stuck behind Adam that I didn't want to be undercut. So I just went for the earliest opportunity, and I was confident in my long run pace. And as you saw at the end, like I was matching Will on older tires. So, that's basically why I did it. And I also saw the gap to cars behind. I was going to come out in clean air. So
not necessarily the most popular of tracks, Adam, but it really put on a show even with just 14 cars. And now looking forward to 2022, you'll be defending your Lionheart IndyCar Series crown, and you'll come here not just for the oval, but now for the road course as well. What can you take forward to that race, knowing that that is, of course, a fixed setup race, but what are the take forwards that you can really bring from here?
Talk about to the Motegi Road Lionheart race?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to make that one because it's like later in the season. But yeah, I mean, if it does happen, and main thing just qualifying is important because it's so hard to pass. So yeah, also it'd be interesting in Lionheart with the mandatory different compound rule because I'm pretty sure the blacks are pretty bad here. So that would make things maybe a little bit more interesting as well.
Well, we'll wait and see. Hopefully we'll see you on track with that one, Adam. Congratulations on the win, and hopefully we'll see you in 7 days' time from the Richmond Raceway.
Yep, one of my favorite tracks, so see you guys at Richmond.
So that was your winner, Adam Blocker, and now joined by a man who suffered in qualifying but then enjoyed a fruitful race. Alexander Van der Sant joins us here on RaceSpotTV. Alexander, talk to us about what went wrong in qualifying first.
Yeah, I was trying out a new setup with like crew chief, like moving on from crew chief and going back to the iRacing spotter, and decided to inform me in turn 4 that I had 2 laps of fuel left, and I spun the first time, and then I was just out of it the second attempt. So definitely could have been better there. Would have been a lot closer to the front, but I drove really well in the race, made up a lot of positions, and went home with a podium.
Yeah, and it looked like some fun out there on track.
Yeah.
Adam was saying he found it difficult to pass. What were you thinking about that when you were side by side with Danilo?
Yeah, it was tough. Just really hard to set up a pass and get a run. Like the best passing, or the longest straight, you have like a super slow hairpin, so it's hard to get that run. And then the braking zone is sketchy there too, so it's high risk. And then there's all the other straights, but they're not quite long enough to get that run and get alongside by the end. So unless the person in front makes a mistake, so that's how I got around David Bercelli early on, and then I think Dan used up his tires a bit more towards the end, and that's how I was able to just stay close and build those runs.
Final question for you. You finished this race with 3 push-to-passes left. Why aren't you burning through them, Alex?
I was just taking it easy those last few laps. This time I remembered they were there, unlike Mid-Ohio. But I saw them fighting behind me. I was still pulling away. I had totally burned up my front tires, and I had a moment in turn 1. Almost went on a trip through the grass. So just wanted to take it easy and bring the car home.
Gotcha. Well, a great recovery drive, Alex, and came into this race second in the championship. You should stay there with just under half the season to go. Congrats on the great drive, and looking forward to seeing you at Richmond, because I think that's a track that you love to race at.
Absolutely. Thanks.
So that was Alexander Van der Sant, and we will take a look at the schedule once more here. And look at this. Half the season now done officially, plus 1 race, and we've now got staples of American racing and open wheel racing as well, Andrew. Richmond, Watkins Glen, Gateway, Sebring, and Pocono to round off this first season in 2022. Is there a better way to finish off this sort of a championship?
I really don't think so, Arjuna. Looking at the schedule, apart from Gateway, those 4 races that we've got with Richmond, Watkins Glen, Sebring, and Pocono, those got to be 4 of the most requested real-world venues that we don't necessarily go to anymore in the real world. So I think that this sets up a fantastic ending to this season. Richmond, again, really, really tough. Gonna be probably a little bit of a different result compared to what we've seen so far. Watkins Glen, the classic American road course that is really got a lot of speed and going to require a lot of commitment. Gateway, short oval. When have we seen a bad race at Gateway in the last few years? Sebring, the classic American test track for IndyCar that always seems to put on a good show whenever we come here in the virtual world. And then Pocono to finish it off. It's going to be great.
Well, live then from Twin Ring Motegi, it is time to say goodbye here on a Monday night. Again, 7 days from now, we'll do it all over again, live from Richmond Raceway. So don't forget to follow us on all of your social media platforms. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Hit that red button, the bell next to it, to get notified every single time we go live with the great sim racing series that we get to cover. On behalf, though, of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, for Dougie Beard providing our track cameras, for ATVO powering our graphics and timing software, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Delighted to be joined by Andrew Kinsella once more here in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth. We'll see you from Richmond Raceway. For now, though, enjoy the rest of the iRacing week. So long and goodbye.